If you've just converted your PC to Windows, you've probably discovered a few new problems with your computer system. It is now too slow. Your screen is too small. The resolution isn't good enough. You need another button on your mouse, etc. Welcome to the wonderful world of Windows add-ons, in which you can spend hundreds of dollars at your local computer store getting the hardware system that Windows demands. Today, we'll show you how to Windowize your PC as we look at hardware enhancements for Windows on this edition of the Computer Chronicles.
Computer Chronicles is made possible in part by the Software Publishers Association, providers of educational materials to help manage software. Don't copy that floppy.
Welcome to the Computer Chronicles. I'm Stewart Cheifet, and with me today is David Strayer, president of Home Row Inc. up in Oregon. David, you've invented something called the J-Mouse. Tell us what a J-Mouse is.
A J-Mouse is a mouse that hides in the J key of the keyboard, so you can use it with your hands right on the keyboard.
All right, now that's a regular keyboard. The J key is marked in blue, but show me, you can just type normally with that?
I can type J's.
So it's a normal keyboard, but you're telling me it's also a mouse?
Yes, and to make it a mouse, all you have to do is put your finger on the key and hold it down and put light side pressure on.
Let me try it. So there's my normal typing. Or I just hold it down and look at that. I'm just leaning left, right, up, down, and I'm running the cursor through the J key. How does that work, David?
Force sensors embedded in the keyboard measure the forces that your fingertip puts on the keycap. The keyboard microprocessor digitizes these. They go up the keyboard cable, and the software works everything out downstream.
All right, what do I do for my mouse buttons?
Well, if you'll notice on the front of the key caps, we have keys that are labeled. Most mice have 1, 2, or 3 buttons. We have 14 mouse buttons here, even including a double-click button.
Well, that's a pretty handy thing if you're running Windows and need a keyboard and a mouse. We're going to look at several hardware add-ons today designed to make Windows software run better and faster, from mice to monitors, from accelerator cards to video cards. Now, you've all seen those nasty Macintosh ads from Apple showing all the junk you've got to buy to optimize your PC for Windows. Well, sometimes you do have to upgrade your PC to run Windows, and now there is a company that specializes in Windowizing your computer.
When Penn State University faced the prospect of having to replace thousands of 286 PCs so they could run Windows software, the estimated cost came in at over $2.5 million. So they looked for an alternative solution, PC upgrades that would cost less. The answer came from a computer consulting firm named Sigma Data.
They want to make use of their investment that they've put into their computer and upgrade either the memory, the processor, or the disk drive. If you can take and put an additional few $100s into a system as opposed to a few $1,000s to buy a new one, it makes sense to bring your machine up to today's technology, and we offer that capability.
So Penn State took Sigma Data's advice and upgraded their older IBM PS2s with CPU upgrades. Their machines now have a 20 megahertz 386. They upgraded RAM to put 4 megs in each machine, and they swapped out the hard drives to get more storage capacity. Penn State could have done all this on their own, dealing directly with third-party vendors, but they concluded it made more sense to work with a systems consultant.
They had all the information we were looking for, they're very knowledgeable in their product, and they knew exactly what we were talking about when we wanted to upgrade this equipment to run those applications, and they did. They saved us a lot of time through their tech support and the information they gave us.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Janelle Stelson.
In the future, all applications are going to have these pull-down menus and a common way of interacting with the user. We have a window open here. I can click on this window, a clock that's running at the same time. I'm able to look in the corner here. I have icons that represent different actions. So if I click on that icon, it reduces that down to a small picture of a disk.
If you use Windows, you have two challenges, input and output. There are lots of things to manipulate and lots of things to look at. Here with solutions for both ends of the problem are John Grundy of ViewSonic and Scott Schulte of Logitech. John, I want to begin with you. I'm a new Windows user. I'm still using my old PC when I was running DOS and so on. It didn't matter that much. Now I want to be able to see more on my screen when I'm running Windows. What will help me do that?
Well, there's two opportunities for the Windows users. One of them is just to buy a bigger monitor, and we have here today one of our larger screen monitors.
Okay.
The other opportunity is to use a higher resolution, which will pack more information onto the same size screen. Now, if we look at the monitors that we have here today, the one on the left is a typical 640 by 480 resolution, which is what most of the people are running Windows at today.
Okay.
Some of the newer systems, like the one in the middle here, run at 800 by 600. Now what we're seeing is the square box on the first monitor is just in standard mode, and the same picture at 800 by 600 is shown on the second screen. And what you can see is you have a lot more area.
So all the stuff on the outside of that white box is new workspace for me, basically, on my monitor.
That's
all right,
correct.
and what about on the one on the right, the larger monitor?
The one on the right here, what we're doing is running this at 1024 by 768 resolution, and that almost quadruples the amount of information. As you can see, the screen, there's parts of 4 separate screens here now. And that, once again, increases the information. So as you move up to the higher resolutions, you can pack more information into the same area.
All right, I might explain to our viewers now, there's this sort of inverse law of monitors and displays, and the better they look in person, the worse they look on the air, so you should ignore the flicker and all that roll bar stuff you're seeing. That's not really what's going on as we look at this. All right, now I want you to show me some applications in the big monitor there, and show me what the difference in that high resolution and larger size means.
Well, as we can see here in text editor, that you can get better definition on your fonts. As you actually look at your print preview, you'll be able to see your graphics, you'll be able to see your fonts more as they're going to be printed.
Okay, and this is a function of the higher resolution,
That's
larger
correct.
display area.
That's correct. Now the other thing that we can do is we can change to the color and look at the added color that this type of a monitor brings you. The definition and the contrast is much greater than in a standard, say, VGA monitor.
So if I'm doing serious desktop publishing in which the color values are critical, is it just the resolution that's getting me that, or is there something else in this monitor that's getting me that?
No, there's additional technology in the monitor that improves the contrast and the color that you actually see on screen. It's aimed more at being able to match your color with your printed color.
All right, John, you've showed us the output side of optimizing your system for Windows. Let's turn now to the input side, and you've got the new TrackMan stationary mouse. First of all, show us the piece of hardware and how it's put together.
Well, what we have here is a stationary mouse. It's a trackball, a thumb-driven trackball, where you place your thumb on the ball and you have 3 more buttons right here. Your fingers rest comfortably on the ball with your thumb over here, and you can move the cursor around quite easily. Unlike some other trackballs on the market where you rest your whole hand on the palm-sized ball, this one you just conveniently rest your thumb on it, and it's much easier to hold down the buttons and move the ball at the same time.
All right, we're talking about Windows users right now, and what's the advantage to a Windows user of having that kind of mouse as input?
Well, with the growing acceptance of Windows, everybody's becoming used to using a mouse right now. A device like this is different than a conventional mouse in that it always stays in one place. A regular mouse will move around on the desk, and you have to look over and find out where you left it the
No
last
mouse
time.
pad, no space in your desk, all that
It
stuff.
actually takes up less space.
Yeah, all right, can you show us some stuff of what you'd actually do using the stationary mouse?
Sure. Any mouse actually consists of 2 parts. One part is the hardware, and one part is the software. What we have shipping with TrackMan are a few utilities. The first one is a special control panel. This control panel allows you to select common things such as a tracking speed, change the drag lock setting, which is useful for a trackball, do some button assignments, which is useful for the middle and the right button. What you'll see here is that I have the middle button set to a double click. Over the course of a day, somebody could easily double click thousands of times when they're using Windows. I have the right button set up for task list, so that if I press it at any time during any application, up pops the task list, and I can go off to another
So
application.
big advantage, number one, is 3 buttons.
That's right.
And then all the combinations you can do with those buttons, and no need to double click.
Exactly.
Okay, go ahead.
Another option that we have on here is something for laptop computers. As you probably know, the LCD display on a laptop at sometimes can lose the mouse cursor. What we have here is a cursor enhancement program where you can actually change the size of the cursor, make it small, medium, or large, make it white or black, and change some other aspects of the cursor as well. So this is very useful for portable computers, which are growing in popularity, and especially for use for Windows on portable computers.
All right, so what other software goodies do we have with this?
Well, that is the extent of the mouseware package that comes with the TrackMan.
Okay.
But what you can do now, once you minimize these applications, is by going off into whatever application you typically like to use, take advantage of all 3 buttons. And what you'll end up doing is saving a lot of time, a lot of clicks, and a lot of motion with a product like this.
All right, John, let's go back to the monitor question for just a bit now. I've seen these guys walk into the computer store and the salesman sell them this resolution, that resolution, so on. You mentioned most people are using the lower resolution here, the 640 by 480. I mean, for the typical user, is it worth the investment in upgrading to a monitor like your ViewSonic 7 there?
I believe it is. A lot of people are finding that while they use the 640, they really don't get the amount of information that they need in front of them that a graphic environment like Windows enables. And to get that, they need to upgrade their monitor. And there's a number of things they could be looking at when they go to upgrade, and size and resolution are two of the most important. The other one being the refresh rate, which is will prevent flicker.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. What about the sort of ergonomic eye strain thing? Is there some benefit to using a display like that, which has the higher resolution and the reduced flicker?
Yeah, as you mentioned at the beginning of the show, the ViewSonic 7 will run at 72 hertz, which means it's almost completely flicker-free, although it is not here on the show.
Right, right.
And that means you can look at it for long periods of time without getting the eye strain. Also, all the controls are up front, so that if for some reason in their Windows applications they're having problems with sizing, they can do the sizing right away. Great advantages for the Windows
And what's the
users.
price differential? What's it cost me to get into 1024 by 767?
Well, there's two considerations. One of them is the resolution, and the other one is the size. And as you go up in size or resolution, the price obviously goes up with it. This is one of our top-of-the-line monitors. It has a suggested retail price of around $1,300, $1,400. But you can get it much cheaper than that.
Yeah. Okay. What about the TrackMan mouse? What's sort of the street price going on that?
Well, the
thing
street
right now?
price is around $79, $89. The SRP is $139.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, the first time you fire up Windows, you may discover you spend a lot of time looking at that salt timer icon. Windows and Windows screens can be very slow. But fortunately, a company called WITF has come out with custom chips that speed up the flow of information to your screen.
Windows is by definition a graphics-intensive user interface, but the price you pay for the GUI is a CPU that spends too much of its time drawing screens and not enough time processing data. For the engineers at WITF, that suggested an obvious solution.
With the standards that exist in VGA and Super VGA, the best approach for assuring acceleration and performance is to use a graphics processor to assist the main processor in the system.
But moving graphics processing off the main system CPU was only going to solve part of the problem. The other bottleneck was the computer's bus.
The initial VGA and Super VGA compatible parts were on an ISA bus, which allowed us to transfer data only in 16-bit bursts, if you will. With the new standards and local bus, we're freeing up more time, and we're actually transferring data on a 32-bit bus. So there's some inherent improvement in the speed and performance of the system by just going to the local bus.
The graphics demands of Windows may be heavy now, but they're only going to get worse as PCs move more and more into the multimedia environment. So from Microsoft's point of view, the WITF solution is a welcome add-on to Windows Power.
We definitely see that Windows and Windows applications will be moving more towards like multi-dimensional applications that incorporates sound, incorporates video, incorporates very high-quality photographic images. And all those are very taxing on the processor. So hardware such as what WITF is developing is very useful for that.
For the Computer Chronicles, I'm Janelle Stelson.
The most popular hardware add-on for Windows is the accelerator card, and the most fun add-on for Windows is probably the card that lets you watch TV in a window. Here to show us speed and video are Jeff Orr of Diamond Computer Systems and Martin Dooms of New Media Graphics. All right, Jeff, let's start with you and the video display problem. What is the problem? I put Windows on my PC and all of a sudden the monitor just dies to a crawl. What's going on? What's the bottleneck?
Windows is a very graphics-intensive environment, and there's two major bottlenecks we find that need to be taken care of, and a graphics accelerator can help with that performance. One is to get the information from the card through the bus, and normally we find this in a 16-bit architecture. And the other is to offload a number of the functions that are common to Windows to improve their performance.
From the CPU itself?
From the CPU
which is
itself.
having to do everything.
Right.
All right, now you've come up, you have one card on the market now called the Stealth card that helps solve that problem. You got it there, sort of just show me what's on the board.
The Stealth VRAM is a 16-bit ISA card. It's based on the S3 controller. And this is one of the primary graphics accelerators you'll find in the market today. It has a number of the common Windows functions built into it, like blitz, line draws, and rectangular fills. This allows the CPU to be able to operate other functions, mathematical calculations that don't require the graphics card's time.
So you're offloading a lot of that graphics overhead from your basic CPU and putting it on the board.
Yes, exactly.
All right, now what kind of factor improvement in speed would we see with something like the Stealth board?
With the Stealth, and comparing it to something like a standard 1 megabyte VGA card, we'd see a factor from anywhere of 4 to 10 times faster in just the Windows environment.
All right, now you've got a new board which is coming out, which you say is even faster and better yet. So first of all, show us the board, and then let's see what the result would be.
This board is called the Superstar, and the Superstar takes the ideas of graphics accelerators and moves them even farther. One is to add it to the VISA local bus, which puts it into a 32-bit architecture, giving more data that can pass through the bus, and also accelerates it by using those same types of ideas, bit acceleration, line draws, and rectangular fills.
All right, now we've got a little benchmark test going here, and I want you to run it for me. So why don't we get it going, and while it's running, we'll explain what's going on.
What we're looking at here are both systems are going to be running PC Lab's Windows benchmark program called WinBench. I'm going to start them at the same time. And what this is going to do is it's going to calculate the amount of time and the amount of information that it can pass through the video card in a given amount of time. This is done with 12 different tests. These are determined as the most common tests that are performed under Windows. And some of these will not be as visual as others, but they'll give you a good idea of the common functions.
Okay, and what we're doing here is comparing the two boards you just showed me, right? Your original Stealth board and the one that's about to come out, the Superstar board.
We're taking a look at the difference between the current technology, which is the screen on the left, and the up-and-coming technology of our new products that you see on the right.
Okay, now again, this will take about another 30 seconds or so. What we're seeing on the left is not your basic vanilla PC. I mean, what we're going to see here is still using an accelerator board, which is going to multiply by whatever, factor 5 or 10 to what we'd find without doing this. All right, so what can we see from the screen what kind of test it's running right now?
You will see right now it's doing polylines, and you'll see that the faster card has already started doing random rectangles. You can see that the amount of time it takes to place these random rectangles on the screen is much faster on the screen on the right.
We're finished, so quickly tell me, what are the results here? What are we looking at?
On the screen on the left, the Stealth VRAM does approximately 9.3 or 9.2 million win marks.
Right.
This is a calculated total based off of how much information is passed through
And what does your new board do?
The new board does about 46 or 47 million win marks.
So again, better by a factor of 5 or something like that, right?
Yes.
All right, Martin, so I've got to buy a new video card, according to Jeff. I've got to buy a new monitor. I'm going to buy a new mouse. All right, I've done all that. Now I want to watch TV while I'm working in Windows. What do you have?
Well, we offer a WITF-TV board, which allows you to open a window on the screen and watch live TV while doing other applications in other windows.
So that's a TV tuner on that board, huh?
In this little silver box, we have the guts of a home television set, plus we have other circuitry that allows you to scale it into a window.
So I just take my cable feed, put it in the board?
Cable feed or rabbit ear antenna.
All right, so we've got, here's Windows. We're in the middle of Microsoft Word, and I want to watch TV. What do I do?
We have a little icon down here that we can hit, and up comes a window with live television and a baseball game. And what's also interesting is that I can still run my other application in the background. As you can see, we're typing away
so I could be working and watching the game. I like it.
Exactly. And down on the bottom here, I have a small menu that is that contains many of the same buttons and features that you would find on a home television remote control. For example, I can change channels. I can ping pong between channels, between two preset channels. I can even do what's known as channel surfing, which is a quick scan through grazing of different channels. We can turn the sound off. Let's say the phone rings and I want to take the phone call. I can turn the sound off, and I can turn it back on again. I can also let the video go away and just listen to the soundtrack. We can scale the window to a full size. We can even make the menus go away so it really does look like a television set. And we can scale it down to a very, very tiny window and move it anywhere on the screen that you want. This is actually the size that most people would use as they're working on the computer on something else. Let's make this medium size again so we can see what's going on. Now I'll tell you about the frame grabbing capabilities of this board, which is, the ability to actually freeze the video at any time to
capture
see
a still from the video and store it as a file.
I can store it as a file in any standard file formats. We support about 9 different ones like BMP, PCX, a variety of different file formats, including grayscale, so that you can grab that image and output it to a laser printer. Of course, you also, let's start that up again. Of course, you have all the video controls.
Brightness, contrast.
Yes, very much so,
saturation,
like just like a home television set. And finally, we have a feature that we call Wake Up Timer, which allows you to select a channel and a time so that this window pops up automatically.
So if I want to catch the news, the window will automatically pop up while I'm doing my work or whatever.
Precisely.
Real quickly, it's a great toy, but I mean, who uses this kind of product? Who's really buying these things?
A variety of people that are in the banking business, the brokerage business, may want to watch what's happening on Wall Street all the time.
Watch the news, etc.
The average employee may want to catch some corporate broadcast, internal corporate broadcasting.
Chronicles.
Exactly, something educational.
All right.
And the fact that you can do two things at the same time increases productivity rather than reduces productivity.
If it's not the World Series, maybe. All right, gentlemen, thank you very much. That's our look at hardware enhancements for Windows. Stay tuned now for this week's computer news on Random Access. In the Random Access file this week, Novell has moved to strengthen its position as the leader in network software by acquiring the Unix division of AT&T. Unix Systems Labs, or USL, will become a part of Novell's effort to head off competition from Microsoft's Windows NT, which will include network software similar to Novell's NetWare. Despite otherwise gloomy corporate news, the IBM Personal Computer Division has announced record sales of its new ThinkPad notebook PCs. IBM says it has over 100,000 ThinkPad orders just 8 weeks after the product's launch. IBM has also announced the beta test release of OS/2 version 2.1. The 32-bit operating system is being tested in 5,000 user sites. Intel says there will be a one-year delay in the promised delivery of its new flash memory chips. Intel had been counting on a Japanese supplier which could not deliver on time. The first week in January means the annual San Francisco Mac World Show. Lots of new Mac products due to be released. Among them, a new product called Cosa After Effects, which lets you add special digital effects to QuickTime movies, and also a new upgraded version of Fractal Design's Painter software. January also means the annual Winter Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. The big anticipated announcement there is the new video game platform from a company called 3DO, a joint effort of Electronic Arts and Matsushita. Looking at the best-selling educational software titles this week on the PC, typing, math, geography, and Spanish seem to be the hot subjects. On the Macintosh side, it's a little more creative, with KidPix, KidDesk, and Playroom topping the list. Lots of new CD-ROM software coming out these days. Compton New Media has announced the new USA Today CD, including more than 2 years' worth of stories from the paper. That amounts to more than 100,000 articles, including graphics, photos, and audio. Software Toolworks has announced its new Animals CD, featuring the first commercial product using video for Windows technology. The material is based on the San Diego Zoo collection. And the Voyager company has announced the release of the Random House Modern Library Classics on 3.5-inch floppies for the Macintosh, with titles ranging from Moby Dick to the latest Michael Crichton novel Jurassic Park. Cray Research has announced its first ever supercomputer sale in Eastern Europe. The Academy of Sciences in Prague has ordered a Cray YMPEL for use in physics research. Finally, PC Computing Magazine has announced the results of its notebook torture tests, in which it subjected 10 of the most popular notebooks to heat and cold, collisions, and coffee.